Good morning. We're going to get started. It is 8:31 this morning. It's Wednesday, November the 10th, and I call this meeting to order, the Macomb County Apportionment Commission. Will Deputy Clerk Kathy Smith please take the roll of the members?
Ed Bruley, Macomb County Democratic Party Chair.
Present.
Mark Fortin, Macomb County Republican Party Chair.
Here.
Peter Lucido, Macomb County Prosecutor.
Here.
Larry Rocca, Macomb County Treasurer.
Here.
And Anthony Forlini, Macomb County Clerk.
Here. We'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Rocca.
Second, Lucido.
Motion by, Larry Rocca, Macomb County Treasurer, supported by Peter Lucido, Macomb County Prosecutor.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. Move to public participation. Members of the public may speak for 3 minutes on anything on the agenda. If you wish to speak, please come up to the podium and state your name and address. Anybody interested in speaking? Anybody interested in speaking? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda, the approval of the minutes from the November 3rd, 2021 meeting. Would someone like to make a motion
Move to approve the minutes, Rocca.
Mr. Chairman,
Motion by Larry Rocca. You want to just second it and then
I'll second it.
second it? Okay. But you did have
Yes, I had
any discussion?
I don't think that Mr. Lucido changed his name. I think that there's a typo on the very last page. I'd like that corrected.
Thank you.
I didn't get a chance to ask you prior to the meeting if you did change your name, sir.
I did not.
Well, all right. Mr. Rocca, would you be kind enough to amend your motion? Oh, is it one more?
Yeah, under public participation, I think the last name of Linda, it should be K-O-C-H.
Linda, the cook? It's K-O-C-H, is that correct? All right, so we got 2 changes. Any other changes? Anything else? Anybody caught? Appreciate that. Mr. Rocca?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the minutes as corrected.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Motion by Larry Rocca, Macomb County Treasurer, supported by Mark Fortin, Macomb County Republican Party Chair.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, Board. Next item on the agenda is the Planning Department's review of the plan submitted by Mr. Peter Lucido and any other plan submitted. If there was any, I don't think there was. And also, Corporate Counsel, when they're done, if you can also give us your thoughts.
Good Wednesday morning, committee members.
Hi, Mr. Schrader. Yeah, your mic is on. You just got to get closer. You're too tall.
There we go. All right. What we have before us this morning to present to you is a third plan that was submitted to the Elections Department, known as the Lucido Plan, for purposes of discussion this morning. I will be taking a look at this and breaking this plan down in the same summary that we did for the other 2 plans, the Bruley Plan and the Fortin Plan as amended. Again, looking at 4 distinct measures. First being, is this plan contiguous? Does this plan meet the 11.9% population variance standard? Looking at the compactness scores, and then also assessing the plan or looking at the number of splits that have been introduced or proposed by the plan. First of all, in looking at the element of contiguousness, this plan is contiguous. None of the districts proposed in this plan create any islands or outlying areas. All of the districts are self-contained. The plan does meet the 11.99% population variance standard, so it meets the statute requirements. As far as the compactness of the plan, as there is no measure of compactness or any requirement for a certain score, this has a Polsby-Popper score compactness average, or the mean of 5.515 being that score. Recalling that a Polsby-Popper score is generated on an interval of 0 to 1. A value closer to 0 is deemed to be less compact, as opposed to a value closer to 1, which is considered a more compact district. In this plan, District 9, as proposed, is the least compact of the districts, and District 12 is the most compact. And then finally, with this plan, if we look at splits, and these splits for the plan analysis, I'm going to be providing what are considered a simple accounting of splits, which is the same way we've judged the other two plans. Looking at a simple count, which is a city, township, village, or a census district split. With this plan, we see a total of 3 splits. We have 3 cities that are split, 3 townships that are split. None of the villages are split in this plan, and none of the census voting districts are split in this plan. Basically, you have a viable plan in front of you with the Lucido Plan, as you do with the Bruley Plan, and as you do with the Fortin Plan as amended. There are 2 other items that I brought today. I'm not certain if elections had distributed them, but I did put together a summary analysis page for all of the plans. Okay. I put this together. I have 2 copies here. I can distribute additional ones. All this does is this summarizes the 3 plans and puts them all on paper so you can kind of see them.
Can we get a copy of that?
I have a copy.
Hold on, this one. And the other item that I had distributed as well, which you should hopefully have copies of, is a detailed analysis of the proposed splits for all 3 plans, and that is based upon the summary total count of splits that Frank had spoken to last time, where we're talking about if we have the summary count of splits basically counts how many times a community is actually split into different districts. So when we look at the 3 plans, the more complex analysis of the splits, the Bruley Apportionment Plan, proposed plan, introduces 15 total splits. The Fortin Apportionment Plan, as amended, introduces 18 splits to communities, and the Lucido Plan, as proposed, again, is 15 total splits. So in that, when we're looking at any one of these, if we see the city of Warren having 3 splits, what we're counting is we're saying that the city of Warren has been divided into 3 distinct districts. So with what Michael is distributing to you now is basically a summary plan. I kind of tried to put a chart together that runs down all 4 of the measures that we're looking at here, and provided those elements for each of the 3 plans for your convenience and looking for them, so you don't have to page through all the plans. But I would be open to answering any questions or any concerns you guys have.
I have a question.
Mr. Fortin?
It's kind of a stupid question, I think, actually. But anyway, we do know that we have all these different criteria, and all 3 plans meet the criteria. There was an article in the Daily right after our last meeting where it appeared as though the changing of lines too much had affected a plan. But I just want to clarify that, because many people probably saw the paper that does not pay attention to the actual meeting. So I just want to ask you, the amount of lines or the changing of the lines have nothing to do with anything, right? As long as the map meets these criterias. Changing a map too much in lines has no bearing on anything.
No, and I believe it
Thank
does.
you.
It does not. As long as all the persons are counted, as long as all of the districts are contiguous,
you.
and that you fall within the population variance that's stated, that is considered a valid plan.
Are there any other questions?
Mr.
Lucido?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
What before? Mr. Schindler.
We're going to have Frank Creech also speak before. Go ahead.
I would like the opportunity to speak about the plan also, since the submission.
Do we want to do that now, or do you want to hear from Frank Krisha first?
Actually, I'd like to do it now, and then Frank can come up and give us the
Go ahead.
legal analysis.
Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the members of the committee, and more importantly, I want to thank all the individuals that took the time to do all of this work. This process is extremely and important, but it's also vitally important because the decisions we make are going to impact our county for a decade. So we all have a responsibility to the people to get it right the first time. I also want to thank both party chairs. This is a learning process, I think, for the new members, but the party chairs, Mr. Fortin, as well as Mr. Bruley, for bringing good ideas forward and thoughtfulness in these ideas in this process. At the last meeting, I suggested that since we could not come to the majority agreement, that we accept additional input from the people of this community, this county. I also sought and received such input and combined those thoughts with those ideas that were good ideas, which have been brought forth in the process. Splitting precincts in the communities. Throughout this process, we talked about splitting communities in the precincts. I agree. We do not want to split the precincts. As such, splits divide neighborhoods. This plan that I offer today splits absolutely 0 precincts. Mr. Bruley has cited past legal authority and opinion as reasons not to split communities unnecessarily, but I believe the far more important reason is that these communities should remain intact so that they both together focus on what is important to them in their community and what a public servants must do for those communities. In our county, only the cities of Warren, Sterling Heights, and Macomb, Warren, Sterling Heights, and Macomb Township, Clinton Township, and Shelby Township had to be split. That's because they're too large. These communities have an overpopulated area, so I try to limit those as much as possible. Each of these communities has a part of 3 districts within their borders, and my plan, except for Sterling Heights, splits them into 2 districts. My plan only has 6 split communities, which is the fewest of any map submitted, and I know it is a very important factor to Mr. Bruley, as it is 1 fewer than Mr. Bruley's plan. So I believe that Mr. Bruley has enlightened us all about these splits. So we're going to incorporate these good ideas from everybody here on this commission, as well as the public at large. And from Mr. Bruley's plan, what I've learned is that the 1 district, Chesterfield, New Baltimore, Lenox, is exactly as my plan. The Northern District is almost exactly as the same, with a few different precincts in Shelby. Sterling Heights is split in half, the north to the south in both plans. But I choose 2 different precincts to better equalize the population. In my map, those 2 districts have a deviation of only 32 people. For Mr. Fortin's plan, 1 district on the west side of Sterling Heights is exactly the same as my map. I also contained 1 district wholly within Macomb Township in a very similar way as Mr. Fortin. We also divided Warren into very similar manner. So thank you. Now, the most important thing I think in this county is the protection of the lake shore. Lake St. Clair is a vital to our very identity, and the thought is important that we have continuity of leadership protecting our lake, which is why I combined Harrison Township and the lakeshore area of St. Clair Shores into 1 district. That's important to me because, as serving as state senator, I know how it is important to those families that live along that lakeshore. I also worked hard to keep the central communities of Roseville and East Point consistent, as in the previous maps, and worked diligently to keep them as a whole and not split them. The Voting Rights Act. Today on the Macomb County Commission, we are blessed to have 2 strong and brilliant African-American women, Michelle Nard and Antoinette Wallace, serving their communities. My map makes certain that the growing African-American community in Mount Clemens and the southern part of our county are united as much as possible in the strictest compliance with Federal Voting Rights Act. In the choir that is our county, It is vital that all voices are a part of that choir. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, during my time in the legislature, I learned you legislate best when you listen most. I've listened to the good ideas from my colleagues here on this commission, as well as the public and our community. I think that together we've come up with a district plan that will well serve the growing community forward, and towards that belief, a very bright future for Macomb County. I respectfully move then, after there's been an analysis done by the legal counsel, that the plan, finally called as the Lucido Plan, or now known as Peter's People Plan.
Okay. Let's have, we'll come back to a motion after Mr. Creasha.
Good morning, Commissioners. Frank Creasha from the Corporation Counsel Office.
Microphone on.
I've had a chance to review the Lucido Plan. Not that I don't trust Jeff, but I ran the numbers myself, because if I do have to go to court, I have to be very familiar with it. So I went over the plan, calculated it all, and Jeff and I talked yesterday, and I think we agreed on everything. So we came up with the same numbers. So, and I'm not a numbers guy, but I got them right on this one, and Jeff got it right. So now we have a third plan. So the analysis that I'm going to go into is a little different than last time. I'm going to go back to the case that Commissioner Burley first cited, the apportionment of Wayne County. And it kind of addresses the problem, not the problem, the issues that you're facing. I don't think it's a problem, but it's something for you to decide. So we have these statutory criteria which are now codified in our charter. The first one is the population requirement. 11.9% variance between the least populated district and the most populated district is the maximum allowable. All three plans meet this. And one plan is the best, that's the Fortin Plan. Lucido Plan is close thereafter, and the Burley Plan's third, but they all meet that test. So then we go to the next criteria. This is according to the Supreme Court case that Commissioner Burley cited. And then we look at the compactness, and then we have the one thing is I'm not a big fan of what's the Polsby Popper, the Schwartzberg, but they both say the same thing. That's just the numbers I think are more understanding under the Schwartzberg, but they both say the same thing. And they determine the compactness, which is the next factor. Now, the way, if you look at these numbers, the higher numbers, the better numbers. So Burley comes in third, Fortin comes in second, and Lucido comes in first. Lucido's the most compact. Is that correct? That's correct. So I just want to confirm that again. So, and then the third number is the number of splits. And when we started this process, we had the splits, we did it differently. We said, look at the number of communities split. And then I pointed out at the last meeting that there's a Court of Appeals decision subsequent to the Supreme Court case cited by Mr. Burley, which explained how to calculate the splits. And we calculated the splits according to that case. That was the Clinton County case. And that said, you don't just look at the number of communities split. That's kind of important, but it's not the deciding factor. What you look at is how many districts you have in those communities that you created. So how many different, so in those three plans, Fortin's plan comes in third, he has 18. Burley and Lucido are tied at 15. They have 15 districts within the communities that they split. That's what that means. That's how the Court of Appeals interpreted that requirement in the Clinton County apportionment case in 2002. There's been no change to that standard since then. So what happens with the situation we have? And then we go back to the case that Commissioner Burley cited. And in that case, which was apportionment of Wayne County Board of Commissioners, 413 MISH 224, It said, where there is a choice between alternative plans, both of which preserve such boundary lines, the plan which is more compact and square in shape is to be selected because compactness and squareness has a higher stated order of importance. And what they refer to is the order of importance in reviewing the factors. And it kind of took me a while to figure out what the Supreme Court was saying in that case because it's not as clear as, but let me try to explain it. There's another statute for general counties for apportionment. And then there's a statute for charter counties. We're a charter county. The statute for charter counties doesn't have a stated order of importance. The statute for general counties does. So the Supreme Court looked at that, and that's where they got a little, but they seem to follow. They seem to say that what they pointed out was the legislature came up with these two statutes almost at the same time. So they said, what did the legislature really mean when they did the charter county version? And they said the Supreme Court decided that they didn't think that the legislature intended for something different for charter counties. In other words, they should be interpreted all kind of the same way. And that's what I get from the case that Commissioner Burley cited. So it's a little confusing, but both statutes basically say the same thing. That's how I summarize that. So then they go on to say that compact and squareness is not an end to itself, but rather a means of avoiding gerrymandering. It was not intended that that criterion be implemented to the extent of entirely subordinating boundary lines. So the issue in the Wayne County case was a little different. What they said is that there was a thought that you have to, if you meet the one standard, you're done, the best plan. And the Supreme Court said, no, you look at all the standards, but you kind of consider the importance in the criteria stated in the statute. So what they said is that, so we thus conclude that the statute, both acts, the Charter County and the General County statutes, require that commissioner district lines be drawn to preserve township, city, village, city, and precinct lines to the extent this can be done without exceeding the range of allowable divergence under the federal Constitution, which is 11.9%. I'm gonna cut out some of the words. And then they say at the least cost to the federal principle of equal population between the election districts consistent with the maximum preservation of such lines, and they're talking about the lines of counties, cities, and townships. And then they say between two or more alternative plans which comply with that standard, compactness and squareness in shape to the extent practicable shall govern. So those are the legal standards from the Michigan Supreme Court. The lines we determine based on the Court of Appeals decision. Two plans are tied for that, the best plans, and then you look at compactness. So that, in my opinion, is how this board should look at it legally. If this were to go to court, that's how I would present it, or I think that's how the court would look at it. So that's my legal opinion as to your duty to look at the plans and your guidance.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that analysis. I know probably it was difficult when you don't have a standard set within a charter county because they didn't put one in the legislature, so you did an interpretation from the non-charter counties, correct?
Well, what I did was the charter, no, let me put, what I said last time is that our charter, the problem is that the charter county statute is for the Charter County Commission. That's MCL 45.505, I believe.
We are a charter county.
But the Charter County Commission is the commission that created the charter, not the county commission.
Correct.
So what our county did, and the one thing we did good in this charter, is we put that same standard in the charter to govern your guidance when you're subsequently determining the districts. So what they did is limit you to 13 commissioners, but gave you the same principles of guidance. So when I cited from that, or I quoted from that Michigan Supreme Court case, that's the law that applies pursuant to our charter, which adopted the statute.
Okay, thank you for that. One more question.
Oh, okay,
The
go ahead.
tools
Then-
that were given and provided by the state that we're following in this case, that's why the questions were asked early on, they don't take partisan politics into consideration at all, do they?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rocca?
Yeah, Mr. Creashaw?
Yes.
My plan, the current plan that you've just discussed, is it defendable in court?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Bruley, you had a question?
Not a question, I'm just ready for the discussion to begin. I don't have a question.
Okay, no other questions for Mr. Grisha? Okay, thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
We need a
Let's-
second on the motion.
So we need a motion and a second. Did you have a,
Yeah, I offered them, I wanted to wait till Frank was done, and thank you again, Frank. But I'd like to make a motion at this time that the plan submitted be adopted, and I move respectfully that the plan be adopted and be voted on and approved and passed.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Forden.
Motion by Peter Lucido, Macomb County Prosecutor, supported by Larry Rocca, Macomb County Treasurer.
No.
I'm sorry.
Supported by Fortin.
I'm sorry. Mark Fortin, Macomb County Republican Party Chair. I apologize.
okay, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Bruley?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the fact that after a number of meetings, the plans keep getting closer to what I had submitted originally. And we keep making corrections in order to have these plans get submitted closer to what the law actually is. But I still think the plan being presented fails, and that was undoubtedly going to happen in this form. I think that the partisanship of the present plan submitted is in the extreme. People have choices when they do the maps. When I did the map, we tried to make it as most competitive as possible. I think the plan submitted by Mr. Lucido follows what he learned in Lansing, and that is to make it as partisan as possible. I do not think that it follows the Voting Rights Act, which he mentioned. Those are flowery words that in the substance of the plan are not fulfilled. I understand my position in this particular form, and I'm glad that there are other forums where we'll be able to demonstrate what in fact a fair plan should be. So I will be voting against this motion because I do not think it follows the provisions of partisan fairness nor of the Voting Rights Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Any other comments? No other discussion? All right, we got a motion by Mr. Lucido, seconded by Mr. Fortin on the map that was submitted today for the, I guess we'll call it the Lucido map.
Ed Bruley,
L.
Macomb County Democratic Party Chair.
No.
Mark Fortin, Macomb County Republican Party Chair.
Yes.
Peter Lucido, Macomb County Prosecutor.
Yes.
Larry Rocca, Macomb County Treasurer.
Yes.
And Anthony Forlini, Macomb County Clerk.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, members.
Motion passed.
Motion passes. There was something that Mike Rick sent to us yesterday, if we were to move forward with this, that there's a resolution that was used 10 years ago, last time, and it was the language, I think you all have it.
Would you like me to read that in, Mr. Chairman?
We should probably have it, yeah, I think we should have the resolution read in so that we can just move forward. Oh, you have?
Yeah, I've got mine in my packet. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer this resolution from the, on behalf of the Macomb County Apportionment Commission, adopting the apportionment plan. Whereas the United States Census Bureau did duly conduct a census in the year of 2020, and whereas the population totals determined by the census for Macomb County were submitted to the Macomb County Apportionment Commission after publication. And whereas the Macomb County Apportionment Commission did meet and review plans for adopting the county commission districts for Macomb County. And whereas the Macomb County Charter established the number of county commissioners' districts at 13. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Macomb County Apportionment Commission does hereby adopt and attached the apportionment plan submitted by Lucido, known as the Lucido Plan, with 13 districts, and instructs the secretary to file this plan with the county clerk. There needs to be a vote on that, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, and you, that's in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Peter Lucido, Macomb County Prosecutor, supported by Mark Fortin, Macomb County Republican Party Chair.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, would the deputy clerk please take the roll?
Ed Bruley, Macomb County Democratic Party Chair.
No.
Mark Fortin, Macomb County Republican Party Chair.
Yes.
Peter Lucido, Macomb County Prosecutor.
Yes.
Larry Rockham, Macomb County Treasurer.
Yes.
Anthony Forlini, Macomb County Clerk.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
this resolution has the votes, and then I don't know if Mr. Grix needs to, but we all have to sign this resolution with the votes as it relates. So if I can begin signing this and pass it.
Is everything in there?
Everything I read is exactly as it is, and I
Okay.
can put the date on here as it was adopted and sign my name and put the vote total as indicated.
And the name of the plan, because it doesn't have that in there.
I can put that in.
All right, so we'll let that happen on the background.
Question here.
We're
Forlini,
moving,
question.
I'm sorry.
A motion was passed, it's in the minutes, why is there a need to sign something?
Well, I think that there's the resolution that happened 10 years ago, so Ed.
That may have happened 10 years ago, I don't remember, but I don't see the need for me to sign that.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, there was a motion before this board, properly adopted and supported.
And I understand that, and it's just a comment, and I appreciate that, but I'm just following the
Yeah,
past
no,
protocol.
I get it.
So we'll move on to any unfinished business. We'll consider that part of the unfinished business. So, any other unfinished business on this board? Any new business? Anybody have any new business? Hearing none, we'll move to public participation. Members of the public may speak for 3 minutes. If you wish to speak, please come up to the podium, state your name and your address as to where you live. If you don't mind, if you can spell your name too, that way we have it spelled properly.
Okay, my name is Linda Cook, K-O-C-H,
Thank you.
and I live at 30563 Ridgefield Avenue, and I've lived there for 42 years, and thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I'm speaking today because I'm hoping that this commission, well, now that I know that you've voted on it, but I was hoping that you would vote on the Bruley Plan, which has the least community breaks and would still stay true to the Michigan Supreme Court ruling. Bruley's plan is the map that gets closest to zero political bias here in Macomb County and will not give political advantage to either party, making it fair to all districts. You know what? I was hoping that you would do the right thing for Macomb County. All of you have the responsibility to represent the will of all Michigan voters here in Macomb County, and I was really hoping that you would do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Good morning. My name is Carol Chi, that's C-H-I. I live at 35325 Moravian, and that is Sterling Heights, not Clinton Township, even though Google says otherwise. I know better. I'm like a quarter mile away from Clinton Township. I'm very disappointed and dismayed that you have voted to reapportion the county of Macomb in an unfair fashion, I believe. I support Ed Bruley's plan, and I support the lady that talked before me, Linda Cook, what she said. one of you said, get it right the first time. Well, I don't think you're getting it right the first time, or the second or the third time. If you want to say that this is the third map. Reapportioning should be fair districts, competitive districts, competition. That's the American way. That's the American way. And these are not going to be competitive districts. And speaking as a person that ran for office before and may run again, I'm really interested in that. And if it's not a fair district, it's going to be really, really hard. And I don't want to leave Macomb County. I love where I live. I've always had great neighbors. It's a great district, great city. Can't complain at all. But if you don't draw these lines so that they're fair for people to run in, there's no competition. And that's the American way. So partisan fairness has to be considered, not just the lines and the splits and things like that. And of course, the VRA has to be considered more. According to Mr. Bruley, you're not really following that. So, as I said, I'm disappointed, I'm dismayed. And I hope that things improve. I don't care for what happened several months ago where you said, where you voted to make Macomb County the Second Amendment, what did they call it? I forget what the exact term was, but the Second Amendment, it's like the be-all and end-all. But that's the Second Amendment is in the entire country. It's ridiculous what was passed before. So, as I said, I'm disappointed, dismayed. I hope you're going to rethink this. And 10 years, that's a long, long time. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Susan Heyer, H-I-E-R. I live at 61652 Glenwood Trail in Washington Township for over 30 years. Sitting at these last couple of meetings, it is obvious to me that this board is not equal in political party representation. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. A vote in 2018, I will remind you, overwhelming message was that the people of Michigan are tired of the manipulation of districts that result in political advantage to one party. You know, I served on my local school board for over 12 years, so children and students have been my focus. We teach our students in these types of situations, you sit at a table together. You work together for the greater good. I just don't understand why that can't happen up here. Why can't you do that? Why is it so abhorrent to sit together and work for the greater good? I guess when I left the last meeting, I had hope. Obviously, that hope was misguided on my part. So disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public participation? Anybody else? No? We'll move on to the last item on the agenda is adjournment. Would someone like to make the motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Peter Lucido, Macomb County Prosecutor, supported by Larry Rock, Macomb County Treasurer.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank you, board. It is 9:10.